For the past 22 years, my business, Art to Go, on Main Street in Littleton, has had a folk art red wooden sign that my sister painted for me when I opened. It had a green horse in the center and a man wearing a sombrero holding a chair and a yellow sun up in the corner. I only realized when it was coming down that it had become an icon. The chair was because I'd been to art school in New York City and painted finish, and my business plan was to be in the back room painting high-end furniture finishes like they did in the old European and Oriental traditions. Horses because, well, horses. Before I opened, I went to all of my sister's artist friends and looked at the work they were doing. After all, no one at that point had any outlet for artists here on Main Street. And they were, many of them, old Franconia College alum. They all seemed happy to put their work on consignment in the store. I borrowed $1,000 each from my sister and my boyfriend, whom I moved here for, and I renovated and paid my first $400 a month rent. I don't know how long it was before I could afford a ladder at Art to Go, as Art to Go began as a gallery with paintings and huge sculptures. It was a long time that I was borrowing Barry's ladder next door almost every day. Those bike store guys later told me they'd taken bets on how soon I'd become just another craft store casualty on Main Street. The summer of 1995, when I opened, the long-standing stores on Main Street were the Village Bookshop, Duck Soup, the Bike Shop, All That Jazz, and Elephant's Trunk. My dad came from Burlington, where we're from, and helped me paint. We had to paint oil paint because there were laminated walls, and we were on ladders in 104 degrees that week in the shade. I was worried about him. He was a downed World War II combat pilot and had had one heart attack already. The fumes themselves were unbelievable. I remember calling Ellen at Duck Soup opening day and crying that no one would ever buy anything. My whole end of town got involved when I did make a first sale, rushing in to help with the credit card slider, giving me advice and bringing stuff, bags and things. It didn't take me long to realize, though, that I needed small stuff to sell, but I didn't have much money left. My sister, her husband, my boyfriend, and I all flew to Mexico and took those little VW Bug taxis out to all the little craft villages outside of Oaxaca, looking for the renowned black pottery, rugs, painted animals. We hauled it all back in huge duffel bags. I was hooked. After that, I went all over Mexico at least 3 times a year, often alone with pesos strapped all over my body under a long skirt. I went to the mountains, to the cities, to remote places nobody ever went, definitely no tourist areas. At one point, I began importing with a trucking company. Does anyone remember that 5-foot-tall rearing wooden horse in my window that I had for years? I remember going out down the street with it. I traveled in buses, taxis, rented a car only once, not a safe idea, hauled stuff from San Miguel, Guadalajara, Tasco, Zacatecas, and of course Mexico City, where the hippie night markets are, and other more remote places. Plástico de burbujas became my favorite words. I wrapped thousands of unusual objects that caught my fancy in this bubble wrap. I made friends, I got sick, I got scared, I laughed, cried, panicked, struggled, drank Negro Modelo, instigated dancing in studios, fought with customs agents, and ultimately learned my mother was right. I have a great eye. I had one longtime wonderful employee along the way, Maggie Dexter. I snatched her when she was fired from Bishop's Ice Cream for being too bossy. At some point after 9/11, baggage became too difficult a thing, and Mexico began to be terrorized by the cartels, and I stopped going, and my business suffered. I had Mike Clapple in my banker at the time. He looked at my tax returns and said, time for Plan B. Eventually a light bulb went off and I ripped out my office in the back and built the hair salon. After a few false starts trying to hire someone I could be proud of, I realized I had to put the apron on myself. Since I always loved cutting hair and had been doing it since I was in middle school, I took it on. Hair school and subsequent apprenticeship requirements for the state of New Hampshire made getting my master's degree at Dartmouth look like a walk in the park. Art to Go then became Art to Go Gallery and Salon. One day Maggie and I decided enough with the crafty stuff. I was already buying at gift shows and I began to focus more on apparel. In August 2013, I launched my first real website and called it Kate Goldsborough Lifestyling. I wrote a weekly blog about health, life, and beauty. I'd been preaching at Art to Go for the 18 years before that. This year, when I changed my name to Kate Goldsborough Stylist, I put up a new modern sign and took down the old one. As the Art to Go sign came down, people reacted. One girl lamented, that sign has been up since before I was born. And this really cool hip couple offered to buy it right there on the spot. As the sign got closer to me, it was an ineffable moment. I realized this sign looked like an old piece I might have once collected. And this evolution was definitely bittersweet.